This is an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder.
A little while ago, I saw a news story about the Scottish Tree Hugging Championships. That caught my attention. Then I learned that each year in Finland, there is a World Tree Hugging Championship. The annual event takes place 100 miles inside the Arctic Circle in Lapland. In doing a deeper dive, I learned about something called forest bathing, which is part of green health activities, and I definitely had to find out more. So joining us is Hugh Asher, who is a forest bathing guide. He joins us via Zoom from Scotland. Hi, Hugh.
Hello, Peter.
Thank you very much for being on the program with us. Now, what exactly is forest bathing, and what is the role of a forest bathing guide?
Well, forest bathing really it's a nature mindfulness practice. So it's about going out into nature. It's most commonly done in forested or wooded areas, but going out into nature and slowing down really physically and mentally and noticing things through your different senses. So it's about taking time to look around and notice what you can see. And at this time of year, it may well be the changing colour of the leaves, noticing what you can hear. So this might be the wind in the trees, it might be running water, it might be bird song. You might spend some time noticing what you can feel. And this could be either externally, so it might be the sun on your face, the wind, the difference in feeling that you get between the clothed parts of your body and the parts of your body that aren't clothed. And it's partly about noticing how being in nature makes you feel inside of you. It's a practice that started really in Japan in the 1980s, building really on Japanese culture, which is very closely associated with nature connection through Buddhism and Shinto, really. And at the time, in the early 1980s, Japan was going through a massive tech boom, massive increases in urbanization. People were moving from the rural areas to the cities. And this was accompanied by a sharp upturn in mental health problems and the beginning of what was labelled in Japan as a concept called karyoshi, which translated roughly as work-related death. So it was people were becoming very stressed. There was an increase in people having strokes and heart attacks and things in the workplace. And so the director of the Japanese Forestry Agency conceptualized this idea that he labelled Shinrin-yoku, which means bathing in the forest atmosphere, really. And probably about 20 years ago, a guy from California called Amos Clifford really probably pioneered bringing forest bathing to the West and started an organisation called the Association for Nature and Forest Therapists. And from there, it's really developed all around the world as a what we often call a salutogenic health practice. So this is a health practice that's focused mainly on keeping people healthy rather than responding to poor health.
Okay, so it's relatively recent, if you say it only started in the 1980s. So again, what is a forest bathing guide, which you are, and how did you get involved in all of this?
So a forest bathing guide is somebody who leads a forest bathing walk. So this could be anywhere from between about 1 and 15 participants. And during the walk, I encourage people to slow down, and I offer what are often called nature connection invitations. So these are suggested nature connection activities. We phrase them as being invitations because people don't have to do them. They don't have to complete them. They can choose not to do them. They can choose to do something else, or they can choose to do the parts that resonate with them. So really, the role of the guide is to encourage people to slow down and to facilitate them gaining the greatest amount of benefit out of the activities. It sounds in a way like something that people do all the time, but there's a difference really between being in nature and connecting with nature. You can be out, you know, on a daily walk in nature, trying to see how quickly you can walk around a lake or a trail or something, and spend the entire time what I would call in your head. So it's about people quite often have an internal dialogue, and they think about what's happened at work today, what they're going to have for tea, and they don't really notice what's going on around them. And the goal is often sort of geographical or time based, whereas on a forest bathing walk, it's about achieving a state of mind, really, rather than anything else. From my point of view, even as a forest bathing guide, I still like being taken out by other people. So I have a network of other guides, and we sometimes guide each other because it's very difficult, really, to fully connect with nature while you're still holding the reins, if that makes sense. Whereas if I give the responsibility for guiding the activity to somebody else, I can really just immerse myself in the activity. You'd asked how I came to this point in sort of late 2019, 2020, I was working within mental health, and I did a little bit of work with a local countryside ranger around nature walks for well-being. And then COVID struck. And what I found really helped me was spending time in nature, engaging in an activity that I later discovered was called Sit Spot, which was just about sitting in nature and going through my different senses. So spending a few minutes noticing what I could see, closing my eyes, noticing what I could hear. And this really, really helped me. And it was then when I started looking at what it was I was doing that I discovered that this really was a thing, and it was called forest bathing, and it had health benefits, and I became really evangelical about it and spent the first 6 months really of COVID doing webinars and writing suggested nature connection invitations, which I shared on social media. Over here in the UK, we had what some people might consider was a bit of a harsh lockdown. People were generally only allowed to leave their houses for an hour a day to go out and exercise. And so what I was trying to do was encourage people to use this hour a day to mindfully connect with nature, to help their health and well-being, both mental and physical, at a time when I really felt people needed as much help with their mental health as they could get. So that was kind of how I got into it, and I became such a big believer in it that I then trained as a forest bathing guide, and subsequently what we might call a forest therapy practitioner. The difference really being that forest bathing is about trying to maintain good health, and forest therapy is applying it to support with people with specific difficulties. So it might be mental health. I have a background in drug and alcohol work, and so my main focus now is in using nature connection to support people in recovery from problematic drug and alcohol use.
It sounds like what you described earlier about the whole idea of, not just simply taking a jog through the forest and not really paying attention to what's going on. It sounds like the old adage of stop and smell the roses, basically.
Absolutely. It is just really about stopping and slowing down and noticing what's going on around you. If you try doing it somewhere where you're familiar with going for a walk and you end the experience thinking, I've seen things, I've noticed things that I've never noticed before, then you're probably doing it right.
Okay. Well, we've got just about a minute or so to go here, and we haven't talked at all about the Scottish Tree Hugging Championship. So what exactly is required in a tree hugging championship?
Well, we have 3 rounds as per the Finnish World Championship rules. So the first round is speed hugging, which is most trees hugged in a minute, minimum of 5 seconds per hug. This really is a bit like an icebreaker. It tends to get people going, and they feel less conscious in the second 2 rounds, which are dedication and freestyle. So dedication is about emotional connection with a tree. It's about appearing comfortable, and the freestyle round is really anything goes. Use your imagination and come up with something creative.
Well, excellent. And you have an organization. Tell us about the name of the organization, because I just want to make sure I get it correct. I know that there are different pronunciations in Scotland. So what exactly is the organization that you deal with and the forest that you work in?
So is it Andarach Forest Therapy that you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So Andarach means the oak in Scots Gaelic. And my house and where I'm based is just above an ancient Atlantic oak wood. So oak features quite significantly in my life and in my location. And also I quite like the concept of, from tiny acorns, mighty oak trees grow.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds, I got to admit, when I first started looking at this, I'm thinking, Scottish tree hugging championships, how freaky or odd is that? But the more I dug into it, the more interesting it seemed. And I'm so glad that you had the opportunity to talk to us about it and the organization as a whole and what this therapy actually is. So thank you very, very much for taking the time to be on the program with us.
Thank you for inviting me, Peter.
Hugh Asher, a forest bathing guide in Scotland. You can visit our website at thestuffile.com, check out the show number for this program, which is show number 0794, and you'll find links to their website where you can find out all about their organization and its therapeutic benefits. Plus, you can also learn a little about the Tree Hugging Championships.
You've just heard an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder. To hear any or all of the full hour-long shows, visit thestufffile.com. Stuph is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's thestufffile.com. A presentation of Flying Fish Communications.